Our today's topic is Autopsy 1, and the learning objectives for the today's session are that at the end of the session, students shall be able to discuss different terms like autopsy, necropsy, and post-mortem examination. At the end of the session, the student shall also be able to discuss cause of death, mode of death, manner of death, nature of the death. The student shall also be able to list and discuss different aims and objects of the autopsy, that why do we perform autopsy. The student shall also be able to differentiate between two types of autopsies, that is medico-legal autopsy and a pathological autopsy. The student shall also be able to list and discuss protocol of the autopsy. This is a drawing you might have seen in different medical colleges and in the museums, especially the medical museums or in the museums of the forensic medicine, where it is depicted that autopsy surgeon along with his team is performing the autopsy, especially opening the abdominal cavity. Around the autopsy surgeon and his assistants or his team are the observers or the students who are observing and witnessing the autopsy being performed. We can also appreciate in this picture that there is a barricade between the students and the dead body. So the students are at some distance and not touching the dead body also. So this is the pictorial or graphical representation of the autopsy. What the autopsy is, if we look at the linguistic origins, autopsy is composed of two words, auto and opsy. Auto means self, opus means view, means the examination or view of oneself. Then is the term post-mortem, which is again made up of the two. One is the post, means after, and the other is the mortem, means death. So after death examination. The third term necropsy is made up of again two words. Necro means death and opus means the examination or the view. So the examination or view of a dead body is termed as the necropsy. Coming to the definition, autopsy is a special type of scientific examination of a dead body carried out on a legal authority and includes external as well as internal examination of the dead body. While the term post-mortem examination, academically it is an external examination of the dead body, not internal one. In couple of countries in the world, from religious point of view, in those countries the internal examination of the dead body is not allowed. So they perform only the post-mortem examination, that the examination of external examination of the dead body only. Going or having a look at the history of the autopsy. Autopsy performance or conducting the autopsy is very ancient. It has a very ancient history. In 3000 BC, before Christ, ancient Egyptians used to practice embalming by evisceration and making the mummies. Egyptians are famous for the mummies, which we have studied in the chapter on the death and the mummification. But that mummification is possible artificially. So embalming is a process, scientific process, in which the bodies are artificially mummified by evisceration or by injecting some chemicals in their major vessels. In 44 BC, The Julius Caesar, who was a ruler and a famous general, he was killed and he had 23 stab wounds. And at that time, autopsy was performed by a physician known as Antiochus, who declared one stab on the chest as a fatal cause, causing the rupture of the aorta out of these 23 stabs. So, one injury was declared as the fatal injury as a cause of death. Besides, in 1302 AD, medico-legal autopsy was performed on the court orders in Italy by a physician from University of Bologna, and its record is still available in the London Museum. So these were the autopsy history. This was the autopsy history which has a record still available. But if we presume on the basis of the presumption, we take the history even back at the time of the advent of the human. Habil and Kabil, that is Abil and the Cain, were two sons of Hazrat Adam alayhi salam and Bibi Hawa. Kabil or Cain was elder, while the Habil or Abil was a younger brother. They had some dispute, and out of that dispute and out of jealousy, Cain or the Kabil killed the younger brother Habil. It was the first killing, first murder of the human being. So we can assume then it was a first death or it was the first killing. Then the people at that time must have investigated it, that what happened, what is the death and how this person is dead. So we can roughly say that the history of the autopsy actually dates back to that first killing in the human history. Now, so far as the types of the autopsies are concerned, there are many types of the autopsies. Number one autopsy which we perform usually in Pakistan is known as the medico-legal autopsy. Means the autopsy which was performed for the legal purpose, on the legal authority, on the request of legal agencies like police, or on the order of the courts of the law. That is the medico-legal autopsy, and in Pakistan this is in practice. Number two is the pathological autopsy, which is also known as the hospital autopsy, or it is also known as the clinical autopsy. So we will be discussing the difference between these two autopsies in detail. Then is the negative autopsy. As the name indicates, that after meticulous autopsy, when we cannot find out the cause of death, then that autopsy is termed as the negative autopsy. When after meticulous autopsy we remain unable to find out the exact cause of death, such autopsy is known as the negative autopsy. Digital or virtual autopsy, also known as the virtopsy, is the one, as we discussed in few countries where autopsy internal examination is not allowed. So what they have done, they have introduced that the high-tech medical technology may be used to find out the cause of the death along with the external postmortem. So that is known as the digital or the virtual autopsy or the virtopsy. Then is the needle autopsy, in which again only the needle is used to take out different types of the body fluids, say for example blood, CSF, pericardial fluid, peritoneal fluid, urine and other body fluids, and then examine those things and try to find out the cause of death from those samples from performing different chemical analysis. Then is the mini, partial or restricted autopsies, in which it is difficult to perform the full autopsy, or where the law does not allow you, say we just as discussed in some countries, then some of the autopsy is conducted while the other essential parts of the autopsies are not done. Then that autopsy may be termed as the mini or the partial or the restricted autopsy. Then another type of the autopsy is the skeletal autopsy. As the name indicates, usually in cases of the old dead bodies or exhumation, for example, taking out of the dead body by digging the grave on the orders of the court after some time or many months or the years even, there is a possibility that all the soft tissue has already dissolved, so we find out only the skeletal remains. When we examine that skeletal remain and try to find out the cause of the death, such autopsy is known as the skeletal autopsy. Then the name molecular autopsy, as the name indicates, it means something at the molecular or at the DNA level. When we only perform the DNA analysis from the different samples, then that autopsy is known as the molecular autopsy. Then is the interesting psychological autopsy. Say for example, if there is a dead body in the mortuary and there is a history that the person has committed suicide, then the role of the doctor performing the autopsy is actually broadened. Besides performing the convention autopsy, he has to interview the family members of the deceased, he has to interview the friends of the deceased, he has to interview the neighbors of the deceased person and the people around, teachers of the deceased person. So these persons are to be investigated or interviewed just in order to determine if that person has any possibility or a tendency to commit the suicide. What these people say is just to collect the data and collect the system, the sensitivity of the system. If a society has already suspected such person that he may commit suicide today or tomorrow, then the society, it is a failure of the society, failure of the family, failure of the neighbors that they never send that person to the psychiatry or for the psychiatric or for the medical help. That extra efforts by the doctor to find out all these things is known as the psychological autopsy. Verbal autopsy is one that when the doctor cannot perform the autopsy actually, but just simply interview the family or collect the history, gather the history and try to find out the cause of the death from that verbal interviews, then that is known as the verbal autopsy. So these were the main types of the autopsies. Now the difference between the medico legal and the pathological autopsy. Medico legal autopsy is done on the request of the agencies appointed by the government to investigate in cases of the unnatural, sudden or suspicious death, while the pathological autopsy is done on the patients dying in the big hospitals after getting permission or the consent from the relatives simply to confirm the clinical diagnosis, or in cases where the diagnosis could not be made till death. So if the doctors have made some diagnosis during his life just to verify if the diagnosis was right or diagnosis was not correct. So this is one difference. Other difference, in medico legal autopsies the identity of the dead body is usually not known, so that needs to be established, while the identity of the dead body in case of the pathological autopsy is already known, and the cause of the death is mostly not known in medico legal autopsies, while cause of the death from case sheet is usually known in case of the pathological autopsy. Similarly, in medico legal autopsy the time since death is not known, while in case of the pathological autopsy, as the person has died in the hospital, the exact time since death is known from the notes on the case sheet by the duty doctor. Then the external findings are of importance in case of the medico-legal autopsy, while the external findings after the death are usually of not much importance in case of the pathological autopsy. In case of the medico-legal autopsy, all the body cavities, especially head, thorax and the abdomen are to be open. Spinal column is also opened in certain cases, while in case of the pathological autopsy, only the cavity where the diagnosis triggers you or points towards that cavity, on that cavity is open, not whole body is to be open. Medico-legal autopsy is valid documentary evidence in the court of the law, while it is not valid and documentary evidence in the court of the law in case it happens to be the pathological autopsy. Virtual autopsy, we just said that autopsy is that consists of high use of the high-tech medical technology like X-rays, like ultrasound, like CT scan, like MRI, and the other tasks to be performed on that. Then that is known as the virtual or the virtopsy, where traditional or conventional autopsy is not performed and the body is not open. Then there can be virtual autopsy and the needle autopsy with it. So the merger of the two types of the autopsies, virtual autopsy and the needle autopsy, is also included. This actually enhances the further value of that, because here the internal environment of the body can also be analyzed from the bacteriological, chemical and toxicological point of view. So this is the better if it is performed virtual autopsy with the needle autopsy. But let me tell you that internationally the data says that the certain things are missed on the virtual autopsy and certain things are also missed on the conventional autopsy. So the best way is, or the better option is that we merge both the virtual autopsy as well as the traditional autopsy. Then we will be better in reaching the aims and objects of the autopsy. These are the aims and objects of the autopsy, that why we perform the autopsy. Number one is to ascertain or to determine the cause of the death, to ascertain or to determine the mode of the death, to ascertain the nature of the death, to ascertain the manner of the death, and then to ascertain the time since death, and to ascertain the identity of the deceased too. And if the dead body happens to be a child, a newborn, then that is also to be ascertained if the child was born alive or born dead at the time of the birth. So these are the main aims and objects of the autopsy, and we need to fulfill these aims and objects of the autopsy as much as possible. These are the things we already had discussed in our earlier lecture on the thanatology, but just here, because these are the aims and objects, we can recall that the cause of the death can broadly be divided into disease, aging, trauma, poisoning, and the neurogenic or vasovagal shock. The first two were included in the natural cause of the death, and the remaining are included in the unnatural causes of the death. So finally we have to reach either to find out some disease, or to find out the aging, or to find out that the person died of the trauma or poisoning or the shock at the end of the autopsy. Mode of the death, simply we already had discussed that whatever the cause of the death is, the final common pathway of the death are three. Number one, asphyxia, then coma, then syncope. Means when out of the tripod of the life, heart, brain and lungs, whichever organ fails first, that is to be classified. That if the lungs fails first, then it is known as the asphyxia as a mode of the death. If the brain fails first, then coma is to be nominated as the mode of the death. while if the heart fails first, then the mode of the death becomes the syncope. So asphyxia, coma, and the syncope. This we already discussed the nature of the death. So if it is a disease or aging process, the nature of the death is natural, and if these are not, then it is unnatural. Now in case we decide that this is the unnatural, then unnatural can be homicidal, suicidal, accidental, or undetermined, and we call it manner of the death. Means the death was caused by some act in which the intention was to harm the other, or so it was the homicidal. And in case where the intention was to harm oneself, then it is termed as a suicidal. And if there was no intention to harm anybody, then it was accidental. And at times we cannot give our opinion regarding these three: homicidal, suicidal, or accidental. Then we classify it as an undetermined, because in Pakistan actually we are not taken, we doctors or the forensic people are not taken to the crime scene, so it's very difficult to give the manner of the death exactly. So many a times we cannot ascertain exactly, so we label it as undetermined. Throughout the world there are different types of the investigations, system of the investigations in suspicious cases or doubtful cases, doubtful deaths, that is known as the inquest. So in world there are four systems: coroner system, medical examiner system, continental system, and a modified continental system. Coroner system is practiced in the United Kingdom, and that involves that the coroner is an official or officer of a state. Whenever a doubtful death occurs or a dead body with a suspicious cause of death is reported, then it is taken to the coroner, and the coroner has to decide if the cause of the death is natural or unnatural, or if there is any element of the suspicious or the doubt, then coroner orders for the autopsy, medico legal autopsy. Then is the medical examiner system. This is practiced in the United States of America and Canada. This is said to be the best system currently practiced in the world, in which the medical examiner is usually a doctor or a lawyer with the experience and the education. And whenever there is a suspicious death reported, the medical examiner reaches the scene of crime. At scene of crime, that medical examiner interviews the people around or notes the different witness, records the evidence of the different witnesses there, and then he decides if the cause of death is natural or not. If he suspects that the cause of the death is suspicious or doubtful, then he takes the dead body under his supervision to the mortuary and then performs the autopsy, and then finally gives the cause of death or the result of that autopsy. So that is the second system. Currently that is tagged as the best system available in the world. Third one is the continental, in which whenever there is a reported case of a suspicious death, the area magistrate reaches there. Area magistrate then examines and decides if it is natural or unnatural, if he is satisfied with the cause of death, or he decides that the autopsy should be conducted, then he refers the dead body to the mortuary for the performance of the autopsy. The last one is the modified continental system, which we have in the Pakistan. This is practiced in Pakistan too, in which if there is any report of the doubtful or suspicious death, then police officer reaches there. Area police officer reaches the crime scene, and that police officer decides if autopsy is required or not. If he finds himself satisfied with the cause of death, he can dispose of the dead body for burial there and then, and the body will not be taken to the hospital for performance of the Autopsy. This is taken as the worst form of the system of investigation in cases of the suspicious or doubtful cases, so that we are practicing here. Word inquest, as we just discussed, it means investigation or inquiry into a crime. That inquest in case of autopsy can be of two types. Either dead body is ordered to be autopsied by the police officer, or the dead body is ordered to be autopsied by judicial magistrate or the court of the law. In case if it happens to be the police inquest, it is also known as the under section 174, while under section 176 is tagged with the judicial inquest, where it is ordered under the by the court and it is to be performed under the supervision of the magistrates. Autopsy protocol, that what needs to be required before conducting the autopsy. Human body cannot be opened after death without authorization, without a order or a permission. That order, as we just discussed, can come from the police under section 174, or that can come from the court of the law under section 176, and this is known as the authorization. Doctors can perform the autopsies only after authorization, a request from the police or order by the court. Then if it is 174, then challan or inquest report is to be made by the police, while if it is 176, then that challan or inquest report is to be furnished by the court official. After getting authorization and the dead body challan or the inquest report, then the next step or part of the protocol of the autopsy is identity verification of the deceased. This is to be performed by any relative or the police officers or the court people. So identification verification is the next step, and also the history is to be taken from the people who brought the dead body or from the relatives of the dead body. Then first step is to perform the external examination. External examination of the dead body, first with the cloths, then after removing the cloths. And the main purpose of that is to collect the trace evidence and to identify any injury or anything abnormal on the surface of the body or over the cloths of the dead body. Trace evidence is the term, means anything which is collected under the Locard's principle of exchange. And what is the Locard's principle of exchange? Locard was a police surgeon, and he gave this principle that whenever two objects come in contact with each other, always there is exchange of some material from one to the other. Let me repeat it. Whenever two objects come in contact with each other, always there is exchange of some material from one to the other. So anything which is collected according to Locard's principle of exchange is known as the trace evidence. This can be biological, this can be non-biological. For example, blood stains over the dead body or over the cloths are the biological trace evidence. Stains by seminal stains are the biological evidence. Urinary stains, these are the biological stains. Any other material which is non-biological, say for example presence of the button or any other belonging of the other person on the deceased dead body or over the cloths, is the non-biological evidence. So one of the aim of the external examination is to collection, identification, collection and preservation of the trace evidence also. Then internal examination, All body cavities needs to be open, from cranial cavity to thoracic cavity to abdominal cavity and the pelvic cavity. Within thoracic cavity, the pleural cavity and the pericardial cavity, and within the abdominal cavity, the peritoneal cavity also needs to be open. Then comes collection of the fluids on internal examination, collection of different viscera, use of the preservatives. Then these needs to be sealed and preserved. Then comes the closing of the body in a cosmetic way. Body is autopsied for internal examination. Different incisions are made over the dead body, and different viscera may also be taken for the laboratory examination or the analysis. So the pre-autopsy shape of the body needs to be reconstructed as much possible as one can do, so that when the dead body is handed over to the family, that may not be difficult or awkward or embarrassing for the dead body to have so many abnormalities visible. Then is the chain of the evidence. Whatever, if it is collected from the dead body as a trace evidence, then that needs to be sealed, preserved, and handed over to the concerned police officer. Same is true for the chain of the custody. Whatever we have removed from the dead body, we have collected, say for example, body fluids, we have preserved and taken out the viscera from the dead body, or any organ or a sample from the dead body, say for example hairs are collected, then all the samples collected need to be preserved, then sealed, signed by the autopsy surgeon, then handed over to the police officer. That police officer will give you a signature. So under signature, that is to be handed over to the police officer. That police officer will take the custody of those samples and hand over the samples to the required place, already designated places, either to the histopathology laboratory or to the chemical examiner. Those samples will be handed over then to that laboratory personnel by the police officer under the signature again. So whatever route is adopted in the handing over of those samples to the labs, the similar chain will also be observed on the return of the report. This is known as the chain of the custody. And for the legal purpose, maintenance of the chain of the custody is essential. So court sometimes observes if the chain is maintained or not maintained. If the chain is maintained, then whatever report comes, that will be taken as the evidence. Otherwise, there are the chances that that evidence may not be accepted in the court of the law. The last of the autopsy protocol is to look for the chain of the survivorship, chain of the survival. While performing the autopsy surgeon or doctor should also have to look for if this person was provided cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR, or not. If this person was provided the basic life support, BLS, or not. If this deceased person was provided advanced cardiac and life support, ACLS, or not. If there are signs of that CPR or basal life support, BLS, and the ACLS or not. There may be marks on the chest of these that CPR. There may, if the defibrillators were applied or not, then we may find the signs of the defibrillator burns over the chest. All these things collectively are known as the chain of survival, that either the person at the time of the dying was provided CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, BLS, basic life support, and the advanced cardiac life support or not. So this was the autopsy protocol, starting from the authorization till the chain of custody and the chain of survival. So, in today's lecture, today's session, we have learned the terms autopsy. We have also learned the necropsy and the post-mortem examination. We also learned and discussed different types of the autopsies